Okay, so let's talk about the Washington Capitals and the Russians on the team, because last time we did that, it went so well. Yeah, I'm not talking about the views. The views are great, don't get me wrong, I love that people are watching the content, but I will say the reception for that video was very strongly favored in one direction. And as a result, hey, let's talk about it again, because screw it. We're talking about the Ovechkin thing and the Kuznetsov thing. Not really even things, It's not things that are actually going on. It's just situations that I notice are being discussed in a kind of way. So let's talk about the Washington Capitals, because they played themselves what was a 5-game series against the Boston Bruins. Zdeno Chara suiting up against his former team, and everybody's got their chops, Oh, who's gonna win? It's a pretty tight series, it should be, because in the regular season standings, the Bruins were third in the East, the Caps were second. These are two evenly matched teams, and all of a sudden, okay, 3 of the first games go to overtime, and yeah. Now, the thing about overtime is that it's literally anybody's game. Overtime can dictate an entire series because it is probably the most valuable and impactful span of time you can ever play hockey for, especially in the postseason. Because one bounce, one play, one goal can change the entire course of a series. It could be the difference between winning a Game 7 or winning that all-important game that eventually leads you to playing a Game 7. It's really important, overtime is. And the first game saw ourselves a Washington Capitals overtime victory. Okay, great. Nice plays over there. Eventually it's Nick Dowd with the tip-in off the Oshie shot that goes past Tuukka Rask. And then we have ourselves game number 2, wherein the Boston Bruins win in overtime. It's a quick one, too. Brad Marchand does his thing. Beautiful setup on the other side there by the defenseman, Matt Gritslick. Eventually, game 3 sees that... oh boy, it's that Samsonov thing with Ovechkin yelling at the guy in Russian after it happens, and yeah, you already know my thoughts about that. It happens, eventually it's 2-1 Boston. Game 4 is a 4-1 Boston win, and Game 5 is a 3-1 Boston win. The Bruins take this handily in the last 2 games on the score sheet. They end up taking the series 4-1, and Zdeno Chara, man, in the lineup, the guy's shaking his hands, he is hugging his old teammates. You gotta respect the love going around there, don't you? But now that the Capitals are eliminated, let's take a look at what's going on with their overall roster, because the Capitals have now officially gotten that huge 13-year Alex Ovechkin contract taken off the books. 13 years, $124 million in total, if you do the math. 124 divided by 13, an AAV of $9.5 million. It's finally expired. He is now technically a free agent. And you gotta ask yourself, okay, Alex Ovechkin's a free agent. We know he probably does deserve the right to retire as a Capital. The guy has been the best Capital ever. But how exactly is this negotiation going to go? Where exactly is Ovechkin's heart going to lie? He said before he's only played for 2 teams in his life, Dynamo Moscow in the KHL and Washington. There is no reason to believe that Alexander Ovechkin will not come back, but at the very least, it's a conversation that some people are having, asking whether or not Ovechkin, who is a very competitive guy and who wants to go out there and win more championships, would be able to see that kind of result long-term with this Capitals team with the way it's assembled. Is there a proper argument that you can make that says, maybe Ovechkin doesn't see this team as a winner in the next few years? He's already in his mid-30s, and we know that he's not getting any younger. So, if this guy, who is uber competitive, wants to go out there and have his heart and soul, the efforts that he gives on a hockey team, engraved on Lord Stanley's Grail once again, is there a chance he goes out there and says, okay, I kind of want to go to a team that's a little bit better? Now, that's just a devil's advocate. I'm not really saying this is going to happen point of view. I would really expect Ovechkin to re-sign. Let's just go over some quotes to calm the mind over here. Ovechkin says, "We just lost a playoff series. Let's talk about my contract and stuff later on." Peter Laviolette said that I like to think Ovechkin's going to be back because this is his team. Ted Starkey said, "For what it's worth, I think Ovechkin will sign after the expansion draft, allowing the Capitals to protect an additional player." They did the same thing with TJ Oshie before the Vegas draft. And so the possibility that I'm making mountains out of anthills here is very much possible. There probably is a very easy to conclude result that says that Ovechkin stays in Washington, but for the sake of bringing it up, I thought I would bring it up at the very least. Now, another Russian on Washington. We have ourselves Evgeny Kuznetsov. This is a guy who is really, really interesting. Mostly because we know how good Evgeny Kuznetsov could be, and how good he is supposed to be. He's not cheap whatsoever, making $7.8 million as an AAV until 2025. He's 29 years old right now, and he's coming off of a series where the guy literally had 0 points in the games that he's played. In fact, it's gotten to a point now where if you go over to the Capitals social media post, I know it's not really the best source of information to find things on Twitter, Reddit, and Facebook, and Instagram and all that, but at the very least, I've seen so many more fans talking about how they're losing their patience with Evgeny Kuznetsov as well, and how he probably isn't really in the best interest of the team long term. We already made that video talking about Kuznetsov and how the Capitals themselves might actually be losing patience because of all the off-ice stuff, the overall amount of things that have happened where he's in the hotel room, he is breaking protocols, he's got that white powder beside him, all that stuff, you know? The off-ice antics after winning the Stanley Cup and the overall decline in play this season. Evgeny Kuznetsov in 2021 scored himself a pretty sizable amount of production this season. 29 points in 41 games played is literally on pace for 58 points. But is that really a guy you want to be spending $7.8 million a season on, and who is trailing down a bullish path? He's been a point-per-game guy before. His 2018 was absolutely crazy. But it's been downhill ever since winning that Stanley Cup. And now you're in a position where people are questioning the integrity of having this guy as the guy who is hanging out with Samsonov. He is the mentor for Samsonov, because now you have Samsonov and Kuznetsov missing team practices. You have Kuznetsov testing positive twice. Is this really the guy you want to be molding your potential star goalie of the future? I get they both speak Russian, but come on. That's just bringing up the argument because I've seen it a ton everywhere I've looked. And so I want you to tell me in the comments below, is it worth it to go out there and force a team's hand at taking on that Kuznetsov contract? There's been discussion as to whether or not the Seattle Kraken would be involved, see if Kuznetsov would either be taken if he was exposed or whatever, maybe try to send this guy away in a trade. He's got a modified no-trade clause that includes a 15-team no-trade list, so we'll see how exactly that can go down, if it's even remotely possible at the very least. It's just kind of crazy to me, man, just seeing the fan reception of this guy takes such a turn after being so high up there just a few years ago. I still remember the Eagle Selly and all the good times after eliminating Pittsburgh and eventually eliminating Vegas. Sure, Nick Backstrom didn't have a great playoffs as well this year. That guy scored himself a point in the 5-game series, but at the end of the day, Nick Backstrom is in a territory where he still had one of the best regular seasons he has ever had this year. He was a point-per-game guy. Certainly not bad for a guy who's already 33 and who's been kicking it around at the NHL level for the past decade. It's very clear that Backstrom himself, despite having a bad series as well, is just fine as a hockey player. But for Kuznetsov, because his regular season play has also been declining, there's a question as to whether or not you would see value in trading this guy away, in putting your money in different players if you're the Washington Capitals. And who knows, if an Alexander Ovechkin is coming back here with the idea of wanting to get some more playoff success in there, who knows how confident he's going to be in being able to do that. I know players have their own pride and all that, and it certainly is rare to find a player who leaves a team because he doesn't think that that team is capable of winning anymore, but it does happen once in a while. Ryan Kesler in 2014 with the Canucks, it happened very prominently there. Kind of because the media twisted it out of him, you know? But either way, it is a lot more rare in the NHL in particular to have stars leave because they just straight up don't like the direction of their team. I think it's unlikely Ovi leaves, but hey, we're still having a discussion about it in the comments section below. So tell me in the comments what you think about this entire Ovechkin thing. I probably think he's going to stay. What do you think? As well as the Kuznetsov thing, because he is indeed not really playing out there with the same level of enthusiasm, it seems at the very least, than he has had back when they were winning Stanley Cups in 2018. There are a lot of other things to talk about with the Capitals, but I just wanted to focus on these two in particular. So tell me in the comments what you think. If you enjoyed this. Josh Rolls in line 9. and bye.